welcome to the PMO, BPMO, I almost said PMO.
We've been talking about PMOs.
The BPMO podcast. All right, so today's podcast is focused on self-discipline as the price tag, and I love this title, the price tag of leadership. Nothing is free.
Nope.
We are walking through this book by John C. Maxwell called Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, and we are joined by David Helps, the Chief of Staff for the Project Management Office over at South Carolina's Department of Health and Human Services, which I've heard is the best PMO out of all of the agencies in South Carolina. Do you agree? Create a little competition.
Yeah, create a little competition. Let's get we try.
Well, and so this particular chapter, this particular topic says the price tag of leadership is self-discipline. Self-discipline in pretty much every area. So just dive right on in here. So here's a quote. It says, "In reading the lives of great men, I have found that the first victory they won was over themselves. Self-discipline with all of them came first." And I like reading about those commonalities. What do all leaders, all great leaders, have in common? So they were first able to conquer their own selves, their own discipline. And that quote is from President Harry S. Truman. So it's not something that was just made up today. And I'm sure he got it from somebody else as well. To you, what is self-discipline?
Oh, self-discipline to me is really focusing your attention and focusing your thoughts on the tasks at hand to make sure that you can try to accomplish the goals that you have set out for yourself. We live in a world today where there's so many distractions and so many opportunities to not focus.
Yes.
Which is why we're having a problem with a lot of people, especially children nowadays, with focus problems. Because
ADD,
we have
ADHD,
too much at the disposal now.
Could you imagine your childhood?
Oh.
Think back to your childhood. My biggest distraction was the Nintendo.
Yes. Yes.
If I got my parents angry, it was not punishment, stay inside, but you have to go outside. Get out of my hair. Just get out there. Go do something else.
Yeah.
But I could not fathom how difficult it would be in today's terms with the internet and all of the things around you, marketing, which is a shortcut away from brainwashing.
Yeah.
It's really become scientific.
Well, they're just you just stick the thing
it's
in.
coming.
Matrix, you're hooked up.
Isn't it? Hollywood is just to test how it's going to be accepted.
How it's actually going to be accepted, yeah. Yes.
Why do you think it's important? It's what helps drive you, as he says, it helps drive you uphill, like you say. It's what helps focus you to get it done. I think a younger generation might say, who cares?
Yes, they would.
And what would you say?
Who cares?
Why
we can just do it. I can just look it up.
Yeah. I can Google it. I don't need to know how to do the math. I just need to know to draw the box and put the numbers in this order. How do you get them to take the topic of self-discipline seriously?
I think you've got to look at, and it's one thing I tried to do with my 3 kids. I think you've got to look at and explain to them that technology is great and technology is fantastic when it's working and working correctly. But even since we have had technology in my 20s and 30s and 40s and now 50s, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it breaks. Then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Honestly, for some people, I really am concerned that would be the case.
Yeah.
That live in societies that have such technology levels I really fear that might be the case. And to go in and spend time dedicated to something that interests you, that's something that you want to do and something that you want to accomplish, to spend dedicated time to learning about it, focusing in on how to do it, and then how to be really good at it. That's the key to you being successful later on in life, when you have to be with regards to whatever that was. If you don't, then you're just going to squeak by and you're going to waste opportunities that you could have been, for lack of a better word, found, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the boss that I had, David, that saw something in me with regards to directing project work, he saw that because I was doing something, right? And I was doing something because of an interest in it and because I found it to be very useful. And then he saw me doing it, and then he was like, hey, there's some underlying capabilities here. There's some underlying skills. And then he was like, well, go take this class. Go get your PMP. Let's see where this can take you.
That's good. And I can remember almost today. I'd say it came shortly, maybe 3 years after I graduated high school, where there was a shift in it's important for you to know the knowledge,
mm-hmm.
and it shifted to it's important for you to know where to go and get the knowledge.
Correct.
And from there, although there's a lot of value in that, a lot of things started to kind of, we're one sunburst away from population reduction by about 80%, you know, I mean, it's...
Well, let me ask you this. You're on the operating table. Do you want your doctor to know how to do the surgery correctly and know what the issues are or could be in the middle of that surgery and handle it immediately? Or do you want a computer over by them, they're Googling it while they're, oh crap, something isn't going the way I expected it to go. Oh, Google. And you're, no, I want the doctor who knows and has disciplined themselves to study and know, okay, when I'm in there, this could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen, and if this happens, I need to do this, and if this happens, I need to do this. Yes. I don't want the Google going on. So that really is where we're getting to, is that you need to not only do it for yourself, but you need to do it for everybody else that you're, like we just talked about in the last podcast, that's behind you and following you.
So there's some good news in this for those who want to be leaders. The good news in this is that there's lots of opportunity in the space of leadership.
There is.
And I guess you can't say it too bad, but him calling it the price tag,
yes,
kind of makes it sound like you're going to have to work for this.
Yes.
Now, if I was saying this to my dad's generation or earlier, and I said, you're going to have to work for what you get, they would look at me like, duh.
Oh. That's what we've done for years now.
So we're going to kind of take some of these next comments here from Maxwell and see how we can apply them, because it's not a new idea.
Yes.
What he's talking, talking about, don't forget the value of hard work, and that if you're willing to do hard work when everybody else is not, then you have an opportunity to excel.
It's not a new idea, but it is floundering today.
So here's a few, and I'm gonna try to keep track of the bio clock over here. I don't go too far, because really we could talk a lot about this.
Yes.
So here's some comparatives, and again, I think younger generations would probably have an argument with this, but they're not here, so let's go ahead and have our way. So the first one is do right and then feel good about it. Don't feel good and then do right. The next one he has is commitment driven versus convenience driven.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of see now you'll see a pattern start to emerge here.
Mm-hmm.
Principle based decisions instead of popular based decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a political
Nope.
thing, so I'm not going to say anything about politics other than ask yourself, are your political leaders doing things based on their principles, or are they doing things because it's popular?
Mm-hmm.
Because really, we could run the country by survey if we wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
But is that leadership?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes. But actions controls attitude versus attitude controlling actions.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it, then see it versus see it, then believe it. Faith. A little bit of faith in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he also means it in terms of having the vision we talked about in the previous
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
You have to be able to see it
Mm-hmm.
before other people see it.
Yep.
He has create momentum versus wait for momentum. And this I see everywhere. I see this in my kids. I see this in my peers. I see this all over the place. People are just waiting for good things to happen. Well, are you seeing this anywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Yes. All the time.
And this one you see on your social medias, and whenever you're watching like the idiot reel, which is what are my responsibilities, which is the leadership approach. What are my responsibilities versus what are my rights?
Yes.
You ever see a Facebook video where somebody got pulled over because they did something wrong, speeding or whatever, and they just give the cop a hard time just because they can?
Yeah.
Like, they just completely overcomplicate it so they can put a video on Facebook and make it go viral.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, there's no leadership.
Well, that goes to what we talked about in the last podcast, right? Your responsibility. You being the center of those 5 questions, you have a responsibility. Too many times it's like, oh, that's my right. No.
Yeah, these things here, some of these comparatives, the difference between leaders or people who can become leaders and those who are going to be stuck in follower mode.
Mm-hmm.
Which not to say there's no value to followers. You got to have followers in order to have leaders, you know.
Gotta have.
But how do you distinguish between the two?
Yep.
And not quitting.
Yes.
This is a little bit of perseverance. So when problems arise, the leader continues and pushes forward. This is discipline.
Yep.
Versus, ouch, that hurt, I'm out.
Yes.
And I've seen this. Not to get too personal, but I'll just say I've seen this in some of my relatives, some of my family. Is when the going gets tough, they go take a bath. It's like they're just done. You really have to discipline yourself to continue pushing through this.
That's right.
And John Maxwell makes this constant thing. Basically, he's saying that your self-discipline is what drives you to be a leader. That you're based on facts. You're based in reality. You're not based in fantasy.
Yes.
I've heard people make the argument that because something happened in a movie or a cartoon, well, now doesn't it make sense?
Yeah.
Well, for that movie, a cartoon, it's not real life.
That's not.
And then the last one, basically, he's just saying, the ones that are cool, that are calm, that can stick together, that can produce a vision, that can encourage, that can do all these things, and that these things don't just normally get born into a person. You have to train, you have to work. Don't wait for somebody to steal your television to begin working out.
Exactly.
So you have to put in some of this effort versus those that are going to be better suited in a follower type position.
Yep.
All right. Of all those comparatives, which one do you think is the hardest one to overcome? If you want to transition from follower to leader, which one do you think is the most difficult?
I would have to say probably. Golly, there's actually several
I
good
know.
ones on here. I would probably have to say believe it, then see it, versus see it, then believe it.
All right. Why?
Because you've got to, as a follower, you're always expected to, you're always expecting that your leaders are going to show you what they want, how they want it, when they want it, and what your job is to get that done. As you move up into the leadership roles and stuff like that, your job is to help decide and help visualize what that is. And you've got to, as you said before, have some level of faith in what you are putting together makes sense with regards to the grander plan, vision, in order to get that to that goal.
Okay.
And that's a different way of thinking.
Yeah, very.
That is a very different way of thinking.
Very much so. All right. So he closes out the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
John Maxwell does, with some things that we can do.
Yep.
To gradually increase our self-discipline. So I'm telling you, as somebody who has been told he could eat better and exercise more, that there's some very simple things that can be done. Right? And I can tell you that simple isn't always simple, but he advocates for start small.
Yes.
And there's a few things you can do.
Yep.
To start small, get little victories, and build up from there. And so the first one he has out here, and it's just a few. The first one is avoid temptation.
Yep.
And it's hilarious for me personally, because this has got to be like the greatest struggle in my life, where John Maxwell is being coached by somebody about how he can improve his diet.
Yep.
And his coach, he tells him, discipline in your diet starts at the grocery store.
Yes.
Don't bring it home.
Yes.
And so his thing is avoid temptation.
Yep.
If you know you need to eat better, don't bring the chips home.
Yes.
Don't come up with an excuse, well, it's for other people or whatever. So avoiding temptation is not necessarily a weakness.
No.
So avoiding temptation. Now, if we take it outside the diet and put it in a project management, what are project managers tempted to do that you'd say, don't put this within your realm to easily do it so that you can avoid temptation?
Cut corners.
Cut corners. I was waiting.
Cut corners.
Not cutting them corners.
Especially if you're in the IT world, do the QA testing. Don't rush through it. Make sure it's right before you put it out for people to use it. If you're talking about policy stuff, make sure you're looking at the direction stuff. Make sure you're looking at it completely. Make sure you're looking at it from all angles. Don't just look at things from one lens and that's it, because it's not going to accomplish what it is you're wanting it to do if you're only looking at it from one lens. You got to look at it from multiple lenses. Temptation is, and we started off this whole segment talking about this. Temptation's out there. We have more and more temptation nowadays to not do what we're supposed to be doing when we're supposed to be doing it. And we've got to stay focused. And one of those things is stop with the temptations.
The next one that he has on here is going to be fun, which is pay now, play later. And so he's saying, start small.
Yes.
Don't just go out there and say, "Oh, I'm gonna climb Mount Everest."
Yep.
But the idea is, it's the opposite of what you hear in marketing.
Yes.
In marketing, they say, here's a box of clothes. You don't have to pay a dime. Just go and enjoy it, and then you can send back what you don't want.
Yeah.
What do? You don't send it back.
Yeah.
You didn't do any shopping. You get charged.
Yeah.
Try to take some of these smaller things, and then of course the last one is get back on the wagon. Kind of like you were saying, you're gonna fail, right? Everybody's gonna fail.
Yeah.
Get back up. Don't just quit at that point. So
start discipline from looking at this from the self-discipline. That second point: pay now, play later. Do a time audit. We talked about this, I think, in a really early podcast. Do a time audit on your time. That's a good small thing to start with.
Where are you wasting time? Huh?
Just sit down, or as you go through your day, jot down what you were doing at that time, how long you spent on it. And that's meetings, that's desk work, that's playing Nintendo, that's all of that stuff. Do it for a week. And then sit down, do it for the next week. Sit down, look at it, do a time on it, and look at how you're really spending your time, and where you can find efficiencies and where you realize you need to put more dedicated self-discipline in something.
Very good. All right. Well, let's have that wrap it up. I like how you summarized it. So time audit and project management, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big deal in life as well. So but thanks for the discussion and insights. We have one more chapter, I think, to do in this one. So we're almost done with this book, but you got to come back for the next one. So thank you very much, and y'all have a good day.